The Invisible Man is a 2020 science fiction movie directed by Lee Winnell that tells a horror thriller tale of a woman who is taunted by her ex-boyfriend who figured out a way to be invisible. The movie was made for a tiny budget of $7 million and is praised by both critics and audiences for its fresh, unique, and beautiful take on a popular story. I have to say that this is the most favorite movie of 2020 so far for me. And yes, I am Lee Winnell's fan, yes, I have a special place for horror in my heart, but this movie is so much more than just a good horror flick. It has incredible visual depth and multiple layers that allow the audience to peek between the lines. In this video, I want to look at the visible brilliance of the Invisible Man and analyze the poetry that the movie writes using cinematography. Without further ado, let's delve in. Throughout the film, knives appear to be a part of the crucial scenes in the movie. Now, this is not unusual for horror, as knife is a useful tool for both a psychopath who torments an innocent person, and for the latter who desperately tries to defend themselves. But be it intentionally or not, cinematography of The Invisible Man puts a lot of emphasis on blades, which makes me wonder, why? The more I watched the movie, the more I started to believe that knives in this movie represent two important things: power and control. What do I mean by that? Well, I believe that whoever holds a knife in this movie possesses power or is shown to be in control of the situation. And yes, obviously holding a knife would give a sense of power to anyone, but I'm saying that knives in this film demonstrate characters' strength, power, and determination that doesn't necessarily stem from them having a weapon. Of course, not all scenes with a knife carry a subliminal message, like this one, but there are a couple of story-turning scenes that do. Let's analyze some of them. This is the scene where our main protagonist, Cecilia, is starting to lose her sanity. The stakes have been raised as the Invisible Man is now physically hurting those close to her, and her friends are now giving up on her, thinking she is not only in delusion and could harm herself, but also could harm those around her. This situation pushes Cecilia to start fighting back and try to somehow stop Adrian. She's calling him out, grabbing a knife in the process. Notice how she does this without a slight hesitation. She's ramped up and angry, at least more so than scared, which makes her feel strong and prepared to take action. But instead of blindly stubbing the air, she's cornering herself by spilling coffee powder, which is clearly a tactical move. She's filtering her emotions, making a rational decision, and the knife is there to emphasize this. Immediately after that, however, she abandons her knife and calls on Adrian's phone, thinking that will reveal his location. When she hears the phone ringing in the attic, she decides to investigate, but she has simply fallen into his trap. Once she finds the phone, she sees, that's right, her very knife from the earlier scene. Not only this shows that Adrian is not scared of her using it, but also demonstrates how he is still the one in control, as he can easily possess that knife and do whatever he wants with it. This is highlighted even further when she discovers what seems to be blueprints of the house she's in, which once again implies that she is playing this game by Adrian's rules. Thus, this scene establishes usage of knives as a play of power between the protagonist and antagonist. This poetic symbolism is heavily used in the two upcoming scenes in the movie to visually remind the audience of who is in control of each scene. Let's move on to the next one. This is perhaps the most talked about scene in the whole movie, which certainly caught everyone by surprise. Adrian murders Cecilia's sister right in front of her, in the middle of a restaurant, right out in the open. The act happens insanely quickly, which could undermine the importance of a knife here. Did you notice that the knife Adrian used is not from the restaurant, but is exactly the same one from the earlier scene in the house? Surely this can't be a coincidence. Why would he go through all the trouble of taking the knife from the house, then keeping it all this time, and bringing it to the restaurant? Also, that's a very big knife, which makes it harder to slit someone's throat and then put it in someone's hand. Well, the reason is display of power and control. Adrian once again raises the stakes, murders Emily in cold blood, and not only easily gets away with it, but manages to doom Cecilia in the process. All whilst using the same knife. Cecilia is now completely vulnerable and powerless, as Adrian has her locked in a small confinement room where he has the full power over her. Knife is once again used as a tool of marking the winner of the scene. Moving on. This is the climax of the movie. In this final and most important confrontation of the hero and the villain, Cecilia finally ends the Invisible Man by staging Adrian's suicide. To the audience, it's apparent that she used the suit to deceive her ex, grabbing his hand and slicing his own throat. Obviously, this is a replication of Emily's killing, where a murder was done with a knife, framing the wrong person. Let's once again focus on the knife. Look at how Adrian is holding it as their conversation starts, but Cecilia doesn't even have her arms on the table. This once again symbolizes that Adrian is in control of the scene, and he is. This is his house, he got away with several murders, and his most desired woman has now came back to him to make amends. He is and feels in power here. But later, it's Cecilia who uses the knife that Adrian is holding, and this is the key right there. By this scene, cinematography of the movie shows that Adrian's demise was due to his over-reliance and delusion of his own power. He thought that if he holds the knife, symbolically obviously, he has the control. But in the end, it's him holding onto that knife, to that power, that poisoned his sanity and made him susceptible to Cecilia's attack. You may still be skeptical and say that all of this is merely a coincidence or simply serves as a visually bloody and effective scene. But take a closer look at that knife. It's still the same goddamn knife from before. The movie is clearly too visually focused and committed to accidentally have used the same prop in all three key scenes. I think that the use of this very knife in this scene reaffirms its symbolic ability to highlight the power and control that the person who wields it has and feels. A terrific subtlety that adds another meaningful layer to already breathtaking visuals of this picture. Both audiences and critics that have seen this movie would agree that the best visual aspect of it was the use of empty space. I mean, think about it, the movie is called The Invisible Man. No wonder you can pull it off with only 7 million budget. After all,
it's not about money, it's about sending a message.
It's not necessarily what you film, but how you film it. This is what the 2000s Invisible Man failed to do, to create suspense, a sense of uncertainty, to create a feeling of terror as you are trying to figure out if there is something in a dark corner of the room lurking back at you. Fortunately though, this is something that the 2020 Invisible Man unequivocally succeeded at. Right off the bat, we get a technical shot, which will be used many times throughout the movie, where the camera slowly pans away from a character towards an empty space. This is done slowly and extensively on purpose, to imitate how you would slowly look behind your back when you are walking through a dark corridor thinking that there is something there looking at you. You don't need actors, CGI, expensive sets for an effective horror scene. All you need is a good sense of direction. My most favorite use of this technique is about half an hour into the movie, when Cecilia wakes up in the middle of the night to pick up the duvet off the floor and takes a slow glimpse at a chair in the corner of the room. Notice how there is seemingly some pressure being applied on the seat, as if someone is sitting on it. The combination of brightness, angle, and time frame in the shot doesn't allow us to make out the truth. The camera is fixed at a perfect angle, not too high, not too low. It's the uncertainty and vagueness of the shot that drives the character and the audience mad, as not only this is unsettling, but it is also inviting to our curious minds to seek the truth. This technique is especially useful when we find ourselves in the middle of the action, like during the chase scene in the house, where due to escalation of violence, we can expect Adrian to attack any second from any direction. In our DNA as animals, we are programmed to constantly look for potential spaces from which a threat may strike. But in this situation, the film virtually makes us completely naked and useless, causing us to experience a slight sensation of terror and panic. This method was heavily praised by the critics and audiences, and probably will be borrowed and eventually become a trademark in horror movies alike. If you are still watching this video, it probably means that you, just like me, enjoy overanalyzing things too much, or just enjoy looking for things that aren't there. Well, if that's the case, here is another treat for you. Without going too much into the story, there is a case to be made that the character of Cecilia is a wonderfully written one. She has transformed from being weak, desperate and traumatized to be a strong, independent and committed person. But this is reflected not only in the script, but also in the visual elements. Just like there are 3 acts to any movie, there are 3 visual stages to Cecilia in The Invisible Man, and they are escaping, learning, and hunting. In the very first scene of the movie, we see Cecilia attempting to escape from Adrian's home. In the process, we learn that she had prepared quite well for this, as she had a remote camera to monitor Adrian's sleep, and she prepared in advance a bag that she had easy access to upon escape. She clearly thought this through, but she is still shaken to her core in fear. She tripped over Doc's football, she triggered the car alarm, and generally showed a lot of fright and clumsiness. Again, this is to attest to her being traumatized by an abusing and violent boyfriend. She is terrified that if he catches her leaving, he will never forgive her and might even kill her in retaliation. Throughout the first act of the movie, we spend with Cecilia living in the aftermath of this violent relationship, with her trying to build a normal life. That is until Act 2 and 3. Second act presents us with a progress protagonist. Cecilia now knows for a fact that Adrian is alive. This is a big deal, as not only she knows she is not insane, but that she was actually right all along. However, conversely, the people she cares about have lost their trust and faith in her. Everyone knows that proving everyone wrong is empowering, but losing support of the only people that care about you is quite devastating. The emotions that she feels are clearly reflected in her behavior and her actions. She's still terrified of the knowledge that Adrian can become invisible, but she started to find her own ground in this newly developed situation. This is demonstrated by the whole sequence in the house where Cecilia started to call out her ex. She is much less scared now than in Act 1 and is not willing to run from the house that easily. In fact, she is starting to go after Adrian, as shown in this scene, after she spilled some paint over him. She is now somewhat learning of how to deal with this unorthodox threat and how to overcome her fear in order to defeat Adrian. But it's not until Act 3 that we see Cecilia in her true final form. In the last act, we witness a final stage of Cecilia, a person who has lost everything. Her sister is dead, her only friends think she's insane, and the only other person that she thought could understand her pain turned out to be on her torturous side. And the only thing that she so desperately wanted to prevent had happened. She is carrying Adrian's baby. With nothing else to lose, she is going all in. She is going on a hunt after Adrian. She is no longer running away from the Invisible Man, but is in fact running after him, chasing him amid all the violence and murder that he leaves behind. Even when it seemingly turned out that Adrian was a victim, not the abuser, she still pushed on to deliver her vengeance. And oh my god, she did. She turned into an apex predator as now Adrian lies in front of her bleeding out, and all she does is smiling. She has transformed into a powerhouse of her character thanks to a constant development through Acts 1, 2 and 3, and now, at the end of the movie, with the suit in her possession, she knows that no one could ever hurt her again. All in all, The Invisible Man was a visible success. It's a visually captivating movie that delivers a multi-layered, eye-pleasing horror thriller. Obviously, it's very rich in visual poetry and there is a lot to unpack. I want to hear your opinion, guys. Did you find any other interesting visual illusions or meaning in the frames of The Invisible Man? Is there any other movie you would like me to analyze or break down? Please let me know in the comments. Please also support this channel if you like the content by leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. I appreciate your help and you being part of this community. Many thanks, and see you in the next one.